We've got a tough road game. We have not played particularly well at Georgia since I've been here, and I'm not sure what it is, but I think the worst Ken Palm loss in school history was 2 years ago at Georgia when they went 1-17. We gave them their only win. So, we've got to come with a little bit better focus. I thought offensively we played as good a game as maybe we've ever played this year. Last game out defensively, we didn't take the step forward I'd like, so we'd like to try to do both. Get our turnovers down, have a better start to the game, and be much better on defense. So that's been the talk with practice, trying to limit turnovers, get our defense where it needs to be, and Georgia's improved. I mean, they're a lot better than they've been since I've been here. So, I mean, their only home loss, I believe, is to Tennessee, and they should have won that one. So they've been playing great, particularly at home. I see they've had pretty good crowds. So our guys are going to have to get themselves locked in. And this is a game where, if we're trying to win the SEC, we're half game up on Tennessee. We got to go into games like this and win them if we want a chance to win the league. So our guys have had two pretty good practices. I think we're in a decent spot, but we need to bring it tomorrow.
Yeah, Coach, this is a little off topic, I guess, but the Bob Cousy and the Jerry West Awards put out their top 10 candidates. Mark's not on either of those lists. Just how do you think he's been playing? How deserving do you think he is of that recognition?
I don't know who's on those lists. I haven't seen them. I'm not even sure who determines who's on those lists, but I can't, in no disrespect, who's on those lists. I'm sure there's some really good players on both lists, but if you look at what Mark's doing, I mean, you look at where the SEC ranks compared to other conferences in the country. He's leading the SEC in scoring. He's the most efficient player, and it's hard to do that. I would say he's probably the most efficient guard. I haven't looked at those numbers here recently, but I mean, he was top 5 in Ken Palm's National Player of the Year rankings, I think, going into this last week. He's been Player of the Week multiple times in the SEC. We're leading the league in first place by ourselves right now. So at a time when the leading scorer in the league's also on the, sometimes the leading scorer in the league's on a team that's at the bottom and they get no respect. When the leading scorer in the league's on a team that's winning the league by themselves in first place, to me, it makes no sense why he wouldn't be on either of the lists. So whoever's deciding who's on these lists, I don't think is looking at everything going on in college basketball right now, to be honest with you.
I'm not going to take credit for this stat, but Tide Hoops history charted, and it said you had 22 technical fouls in your time.
Somebody sent it to me. I thought it was 21. Did they come up with
21 games, but you had the double tech.
Oh, so 20. Okay. Yeah, I didn't forget about that.
Yeah, to go back to your first one here, you had said that you're usually good for one a year. So
is that what I said?
Yeah, you're kind of over that average. Is there something about these games that maybe is it the SEC kind of brings out another level in you, or is some of it you mentioned sometimes you can use it to rally your team?
Yeah. I didn't realize I had. So I somebody did send me the 21, but and if that would make sense if I had 2 in one game. So what are we 4.5 games through with 22 techs? 17-4 in those games. Yeah, you know what? We should probably get more techs then for 17-4. The 17-4 is a higher winning percentage than our overall winning percentage. So I will say sometimes there's a intensity level that needs to be brought to the game that, if you come at the guys, sometimes they don't handle it as well. So you take the intensity and direct it elsewhere. Sometimes I'm just really upset about a call. Sometimes I'm trying to make a point. Sometimes I just make bad decisions. So there's probably all different reasons I've gotten that many. I don't really try to get that many. It's not necessarily a positive stat, but what did we? We're going into 5 games, so 4.5 games. What's that? About 5 it's about 5 a year we're averaging, huh? That's true. That ain't that bad. 1 a month. It's like 4 or 5 a year. Listen, I just had Terry Oglesby the other day. It's great. I think I'm in a much better place with him than when he tossed me out of the game. We won that game too, by the way, and we were down. What were we down against Mississippi State when I got tossed? We were down. It was under 7 minutes to go, if I remember right, and I think we were down double digits, close to it, 10, 11. You'd have to look it up. I do know that when I got tossed, we came back and won after being down. So sometimes it works. Sometimes I need to just shut my mouth. So we'll try to get our guys inspired without getting teased, because you do hand the other team 2 free points usually, which I'm not. Being an analytics guy, that's not usually a good move to hand 2 free points to the other team.
Yeah, you talked after the game about defense and how much, I mean, you've been preaching it, you're going to continue preaching it. What specifically are you doing recently or since that last game, maybe a little different to help with defense, or where's that all at?
Yeah, I pick and roll coverages, I think we've got to clean them up. We're not, our guards aren't as tough into the ball as they need to be. Our bigs are not. They're kind of getting caught where, we've been trying to be more aggressive. They've been caught where they're behind and then trying to still come up and blitz the ball screen, if you will. And if you're late on that blitz, then they're getting split. And they're able, we've got to know when we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do and do it on time. And if you're late doing it, then there's, it's not going to work. So some of it's like getting the guys to be a little more focused on what the other team does well, so that we're alert to it before it happens and we're ready to defend it at the point it happens, not a half second too late. I just think got too many guys reacting to plays instead of being a little more proactive and knowing what's going on. That we haven't made any major. It's hard to make major changes with. I mean, if you make any, like this would be a week you do it. You play Saturday, off Sunday, practice Monday, Tuesday. But even that, it's hard to come in and make major changes. I mean, if you're going to make any kind of major, probably hard to do at this point in the year. But if you're going to make any significant changes, you probably got to wait till that off week, which we haven't had here in the past, but we do this year. So if we get to that off week and still don't like what's going on, that would be a time you can make some major changes.
You mentioned already the last time you went and played at Georgia, the 1-17, their 1 win in SEC play. Have you used that game to kind of motivate or warn the team this year, or have you just been focused on this year's matchup? I
think I addressed it once, just like what can happen if you're not ready to play. Because we've played some teams that our guys maybe, if they're paying attention to social media and standings and stuff, won't necessarily have the respect they need to have for. And I used it at that point. I haven't used it here for this Georgia game because this year's Georgia team is nothing like, they're not going to be 1-17. But we have played teams that, don't have a win, that aren't as good in the league, and you got to take them seriously, or you could end up getting popped like we did 2 years ago.
I think it was after this last game against LSU when you talked about Davin Cosby, or somebody asked you about him getting more minutes, and you talked about just guys that are going to work hard at practice. Do you feel like at this point, over a third to the way into SEC play, it's still rotation minutes are up for whoever's going to play defense and play hard?
I do, actually. And it'd be nice to have a set rotation by this point. This isn't the way it's gone with this team. I think there's definitely minutes up for grabs, like who plays well. Our front court, we started the 4 guards with all the tough front court players that we had and the depth up there. To start 4 guards means it's a lot of competition up in the front court as to who's actually going to play. So, those minutes are for sure up for grabs. I think even, with the guards, if we're going to play guards a little bit more, they're going to have to rest. Who else can play in those minutes? So, yeah, I think there's some guys that have definitely established themselves as some of the better players on this team that are going to play. But even them, if they're not playing hard on the defensive end, we're not going to leave them in the game. I mean, they're going to start out playing, but we can't leave guys in the game that aren't giving us winning effort if we're trying to win games.
Hey, Nate, I want to get back to working the officials. Is that a part of the game that you enjoy, walking that fine line between getting your point across and getting a technical foul? And do you have a favorite technical foul story?
I mean, listen, all the way back to my high school days, I think I've been a lot a lot more intense, and it just kind of the intensity of the game gets directed different areas, and officials tend to make some calls you don't agree with sometimes. I'm not sure that I enjoy it, but I'm gonna if you know me, I'm gonna let you know. Like I don't, sometimes I don't have a filter, so I'm gonna let you know when I disagree with a call. I think sometimes I need to work on picking my points. I think sometimes it goes a lot better when you're not making any point on every call you disagree with. I maybe didn't work I was pretty fiery as a high school coach, and then I went to work my 2 years as an assistant Division I for Coach Hurley, who doesn't necessarily have the, he gets a few technicals himself. Yeah, I talked to him a couple weeks ago. He's, I think he had a few technicals that first year. I tried to talk to him about maybe getting a few less technicals and kind of like calling the kettle black. I think at this point, it's somebody. I told somebody that now it sounded a little absurd, but I don't know if there's. I mean, the one where Terry tossed me wasn't particularly great. That the issue with that one was his boss was in the crowd, and I looked at his boss a couple of times. That doesn't go over very well. So now, if there's a director of officials in the crowd, I usually try to reference we did have the national director of officials same front row in the Purdue game. There's a few calls that didn't necessarily go our way that game. He made it really easy. He was like sitting right there. I got to be better with not coach the game. I tell myself every time I'm walking out the floor from the locker room, just coach your team. Just coach your team. I know Danny Hurley, I think, had it written on his wrist at one point. Like there's a little bit of that with me too. Like the more time and attention I spend on the refs, the less I'm spending on my team, and my job is to actually coach my team. But there is a point you do need to make, I think, sometimes when, particularly if the same call is not being called over and over again, and it's hurting your team, I think you got to make a point a few times. So I'm not going to say all of my technicals were productive ones because I didn't necessarily want them all, but 17-4, right? So some of them got the point across, and or fired the team up, or whatever happened, and we won 17 of those 21 games I got T's in. So to say I enjoy arguing with another adult male, no, I don't enjoy arguing with other guys because I respect most of the referees, but sometimes you got to make a point. All right, thanks.